You sit down to work on something that matters to you, and instantly your brain shows you 17 ways to start, 12 things to connect to it, and about 40 reasons why each one is equally urgent. And it's the exact reason why you're stuck in life. But here's the thing why this is not a flaw. So let me explain. In this video, we're going to learn what's actually happening in your brain when everything feels equally important, and how to use that wiring for you instead of against you. Most productivity advice says just prioritize, or pick the most important one first. The famous eat your frog. As if your brain can neatly rank things in a list. But hey, some brains don't work in lists. Mine doesn't. And actually it works in webs. And those brains need a completely different starting strategy. Hi there, I'm Yvette, I'm a neuroscientist and an author of several neuroscience studies. And for a person who spent, basically a long time studying brains, recently I've come to the realization that it's not the same as understanding your own. And I will share with you neuroscience facts, insights, and failures that I'll meet along the way, which hopefully can help you as well get unstuck in life. So if this sounds like something right up your alley, you have to follow for more. Most people think in sequences. First this, then that. But I'm guessing that your brain doesn't, does it? It's thinking in networks. Some brains have a hyperactive default mode network connectivity, because these brains, they generate more associations between seemingly unrelated ideas. This is why when you think about cleaning the bathroom, for example, your brain simultaneously flags the kitchen, the grocery list, the fact that you should call your mom, and maybe like something else from work. And this is the exact reason why just prioritize advice feels, impossible, because your brain genuinely does not experience one task as more important than another, because it sees them as one interconnected system. And this is a mental map with no clear entry point, which leads to, paralysis. So not everything is doom and gloom. This wiring is actually the neural basis of creativity and pattern recognition. So in a way, it's a feature. But unfortunately, often we're not told how to operate this kind of brain. So here's what I didn't understand until I looked at the dopamine research. And I'll let you in on a little secret. It doesn't matter where you start. And neuroscience backs it up. Your brain doesn't give you motivation to start. It gives you motivation because, you started already. And the neuroscience behind it is that dopamine is released not as a reward for finishing, but in anticipation of progress. The system needs evidence that progress is possible before it will fuel you. So when you're frozen, your dopamine system is essentially idling because it has no data to predict from. And so starting from anywhere, imperfectly as it may be, even if it's in the middle or on the easiest thing, this gives dopamine to the system, and it's also your first data point. This is all that your brain needs. One small action and the prediction engine lights up. And this is why once you start it, everything feels easy to continue, because your neurochemistry has changed. To depict the story, I'd like to think of this famous parable. So once the king gets one robe, then he notices the chair doesn't match, then upgrades the whole study, and then the palace. The brain becomes preoccupied with completing what it has started. One upgrade raises your internal standard, and your brain starts flagging everything that doesn't match. You didn't need to plan the whole palace renovation from the start. All the king needed was a revamp of his wardrobe. And for our brain network, this is liberation. Because you don't need to find the right starting point. You just need any starting point and your brain's own wiring. The same wiring that showed you all those connections will illuminate the path from there. But I'd be lying if I said this feels good, because there's a cost to starting imperfectly, and I want to be honest about that. Starting imperfectly is the right strategy. However, this doesn't mean that it won't hurt. The anterior insula, which is your brain's "this ain't right" detector, lights up. When your network produces something half done or rough, the anterior insula fires hard because it can see how far the work is from the vision. The gap between where it is and where you know it could be is genuinely painful. Unfortunately, this is how our neuroscience works. I'll tell you one thing. Once I finally start cleaning the bathroom after procrastinating for ages, I am often scrubbing out grout with a toothbrush because once I started, my brain won't let me stop until it matches the picture in my head. And this is the same wiring that paralyzes you before starting, also drives you to over-optimize once you begin. It's editing before you've even finished your first draft. And in a way, that's why it's easier to edit than to write. And our goal isn't to eliminate this discomfort, because that comes hand in hand with the situation. However, we just need to learn to live with that discomfort. Because after all, this discomfort is information and not a stop sign. It also means that our brain has high standards and it can see the gap. Well, and after all, isn't that useful? So what does it actually change when you do this repeatedly? Starting anywhere builds new neural pathways. Every time you override the freeze response and start, well, anyway, you're strengthening a new circuit, which is uncertainty equals action, instead of uncertainty equals paralysis. The prefrontal cortex to motor cortex pathways get faster with repetition. And this is the same mechanism behind every form of brain rewiring. So you can think of this as the just do it the ugly version rule. Write a terrible first draft, clean one corner of the room. Each time that you're doing this, you're training your brain to treat imperfect action as safe. Over time, this freeze gap gets shorter. And yeah, your network brain doesn't need to become a linear brain. We just basically need to start playing to our strengths. Your brain shows you a million starting points. And this is because it can see the different connections. And luckily for us, this is not a problem. However, what the problem is to wait for one of those million reasons to feel like the right starting point. Because it never will. But the moment you pick any of them, your brain does what it does best. It lights up the rest. And if you have resonated with this video, well, my bet is that you have a problem with your messy desk. Well, if in that case, I would recommend you to watch this video next.